Everybody, how's it going? Doing
And
well.
don't all jump in at once.
I see movement. I see something. So some responses. So yeah, I'm super, first of all, I just wanted to say how excited I am to be here amongst each of you today. I think this is just so fabulous that you're taking this time to just invest in yourself in this type of way. I will say, I know for a fact lunch and learns do not stop. So it's so good that you're getting into the habit of going to them now, because they will continue to go on, especially if you stay in marketing throughout your entire career. So super awesome. So let me actually get out my presentation for you all. Give me one moment. All right. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah. Okay. All right. So I do want to first just preface, this is going to be a very conversational meeting. It's super informal. Feel free to jump in with any questions along the way, thoughts, opinions. I welcome all of that. Definitely would love to hear from you all. And I'm just here to just, be a vessel of knowledge, help whatever I can do, just so you guys have what you need during this time. So just wanted to put that out there. So it says it jokingly, but as you can see, and I'm going to do this really quick. I'm trying to put you guys across my screen instead of at the side of it. All right, this one is definitely about selling and going for the win. So it says that jokingly, but I'm sure you guys could know this is selling, influencing, and just really going for it in your guys' career. And I would say this applies to life too. You would be surprised how much your work situations mirror, not exactly, but a lot of life situations. And you can just apply some of these same tools, some similar knowledge to really help you just get ahead. All right, so who am I? So my name is Brittany Johnson. My pronouns are she and hers. I'm a Midwest native. I grew up in St. Louis, but I actually spent most of my life in Chicago. I'm a brunch enthusiast. I love to read a good book. I enjoy a dairy-free latte. Specifically, I love oat milk. I'm a content creator for myself, as well as just at work on my job. And I'm an advocate for wellness and self-care. We have this fun thing in this organization I'm involved in, and it's ask me about, and everybody's wellness, talk to her about that. So everybody kind of knows. As Maya mentioned, I was an Ad Club of New York 2020 I'm Part Fellow. And currently, I am a content supervisor full-time for Spark Foundry, but I would say as much as I enjoy that, I'm even more proud that I'm a founding member of Spark Noir. We created it, I want to say almost 4 years ago, for just Black employees, anybody of the diaspora, as well as allies. And just to see how it's grown, especially over the past few years, and that there was a need for it, and that we met a need of employees at work, was just super incredible. Some of my notable clients include P&G, specifically My Black is Beautiful, State Farm, Wrigley. I worked on Skittles. Skittles is crazy, but and Orbit, which is one of my favorite chewing gums. Sherwin-Williams. I'm currently on Citibank, and I've worked on a lot more niche clients that you probably won't think about, but they brought me a lot of joy in my career. And just some words of wisdom: you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So ultimately, go for it. Don't self-eliminate. Let somebody else tell you no. And also, no's are very temporary. They're not forever. And so if there's something you want, make sure you keep going to get it. And also, don't forget to have fun. I just like to have a good time. I would say marketing is one of your more fun careers. Advertising is so creative. It's so fun. You meet so many great people. Just enjoy yourself, and do that in whatever industry really, but especially in this one. All right, so I broke this down to 6 best practices. So these are just some things, again, that I've thought about deeply with my friends, just told family members, told people all kinds of things. So just, again, feel free to jump in for selling, influencing, and going for the win. So the first practice is to identify your strengths and truly own your bragging rights. I've been reading this book called Brag Better, and honestly, bragging is really rooted. It should be rooted in truths. So and bragging has like such a negative connotation, but we need to know what we're good at. We need to be able to say it verbally and let people around us know and kind of constantly remind them, not in a way, it could be in a different way. Today, like if you're knowledgeable in something, it could look like continuing to share knowledge on updates, maybe for a certain type of topic like digital. Like in digital, this is happening. This year that happened. But I just wrote down a few questions to ask yourself, and also feel free, like I'm actually, Maya will be sending this presentation to you all, so don't feel like the need to just really like be head down if you don't want to, but I know also sometimes writing things makes us feel like better. I know it makes me feel better. So a few questions that you should be asking yourself: what am I naturally good at? What are skills that others have informed me that I'm good at? Like, you have that friend that if they need that one thing, they call you always for that thing, things like that. And how does that like kind of relay into like the workplace? Maybe some people trust you. You're a person that people can trust. Use that to your advantage. Or you're somebody people like to confide in because maybe you make people feel comfortable. That's amazing. Also ask yourself, what am I passionate about? What are things that I gravitate to or do without being told? That is truly key. So how I became a content creator just in college, it was like Halloween, your senior year. I took a class called Writing for the Web. And I remember that I was just like so obsessed with like blogging and writing on the internet. I was like, my friends could not tear me away from like the computer on Halloween night, our final Halloween, senior year in Chicago. We're going out. We finally can go to the bars. And I don't want to leave. I was like, oh, this is serious, like kind of think about that type of stuff. You don't have, you can go without eating. You'll try not to use the bathroom. Like you just want to do it all day, all night in some regards. And then like, what are your core competencies? And a pro tip that I do want to call out too, when discussing your weaknesses, because people will ask you about them, call them areas of opportunity. Because the truth is, like for me, I think weakness sounds like just so like definite, right? Like it can't be changed. They can be changed, just like your body. And okay, you guys know, because I've already established I love wellness, but just like your body, there are areas of your body, if you continue to work out and exercise those muscles, they will get strengthened. Like, so basically use that to like to your advantage, that knowledge, and know you don't have to be the best. As long as you are strong enough to be able to get the job done, the task at hand, that sometimes is all that you need to do. It's not, everything we do, we don't have to be like that number one in our class, that like A student in that regard. Just do it good enough to get the job done, because really you're going to have a new challenge. It's a new day and you'll have something else you need to accomplish. So that is the first thing. And so this is a personal example. I'm just gonna like read a few of these off to you, and then we're gonna actually do a group activity. But I think one of these, like that I think is really strong, it says like in-depth knowledge of the digital creator landscape serves as a department-wide center of excellence for influencer marketing, education, and POV. Passionate about developing creative data-driven solutions to solve complex, ambiguous problems. This one's really good in advertising too. Adaptable, dedicated collaborator with a history of building strong relationships, managing multiple priorities, and exceeding team as well as client expectations. So those are things I can say about myself. And honestly, that was just like thinking of a more specific opportunity. There's a lot more, and they're always like should be. So I want you guys now, just for a moment, I'm going to give you a couple minutes, but just to like think about 3 to 5 of your strengths and kind of think of them in a way that you can talk about them. I'm going to go back to my next slide. It doesn't have to be that complex. I know minds are kind of building upon things, but say a few things. And then I want to hear from just a couple people about some of those. So I'm going to go back to the first slide because I think it would be helpful probably to have that visual example, but I just want to hear from you guys because I know that all of you all have so many skills, and it's just important to get into the habit of learning how to kind of like say them in a way that's very elevator pitch like, and that you can just express them when necessary. So here we go. I am going to give you until I would say 11:30. Oh, now I'll say 11:14. So, or excuse me, I'm in Midwest time, 12:14. I apologize, y'all. And also, y'all, I'm not holding you to a number. If you could come up with one really interesting one that you just want to share, for whoever will be open and do so, I'm good with that too. All right, we are at time. So if you just want to give me a quick nod, everybody feeling okay? Y'all need another minute? We okay? Okay, cool. So who wants to go? I would like 3 people. Otherwise I will call at random, but if you really hate to public speak, I will move on. Just you know, kind of let me know.
I can go.
Awesome. Let's go. That'd be great.
So my name's Erin. I'm actually another St. Louis native.
Nice. Oh my God. I love that, Erin.
I'm interning at Clear Channel Outdoor as a sales operations intern, but I'd say one of the top strengths of mine would be adaptability. I've had several experiences throughout life, whether it be my part-time job, previous internships, or working on a team. I play volleyball at Manhattan College, so the team's always changing and evolving. It's never the same team every year. So just being able to get thrown into a situation that is kind of new to you and you're not very comfortable with, and being able to navigate yourself comfortably through it without feeling overwhelmed, I think is a really good skill to have. And I definitely think that is a skill that I have.
That's awesome. I couldn't agree more too, Erin. I would say something that's like kind of like newer Harvard Business Review, like a buzzy word, but like not too buzzy in the annoying way. Adaptive leadership. That's something that a lot of people look for. You need to be able to, you know, like definitely go in places and be able to work with like the executives as well as people who may be at some point your subordinate as well as your peers. And so I think that's an incredible one and strength. Anybody else? Couple more people?
I can go. So
Awesome.
I'm Talia, and I'm from New York City. So one of my strengths I wrote is that I'm a quick learner, and I think this kind of comes like in high school. I was always a math person, which is funny because now I like want to be an art director, which is so like opposite. But I think the reason that it works for me is because like in everything that I'm learning, that's like a new skill, I'm always like subconsciously finding patterns and things, which helps me like reach a deeper understanding versus just kind of memorizing certain things. And then I'm able to like ask good questions and kind of learn more.
Yeah, and I think, first of all, thank you just for going, Talia. That was like amazing. I would say too, for that, especially being on more of the creative side, like there's like this notion, you know, the industry actually is pretty divided amongst like the media people and people who consider themselves like to be more creative. So the fact that you like to know the results and maybe you can like parlay that into saying that, you know, you're a results driven like creative and just somebody who's really interested in the numbers, because I myself too, I love math, but I'm also in content, and there's definitely a budgetary like side of things and things you need to know. So that's really cool. One more person?
I could go.
Hi.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, you both can go. Just like, whoever wants to go first, I'm totally good with.
Oh, I can go first. Hi,
Okay.
my name's Catalina. I'm from Chicago. I would say one of my strengths would be that I'm really open-minded. I would say just in life, but also in like the workplace, especially like in advertising. I feel like it's really easy to get stuck on like one idea, but being like open-minded to like other people's ideas as well as like your own, like not just like honing in on like just one idea and sticking with it is really useful. So
yes, and we need more people like you, Catalina, and like brainstorms, because there's always people that want to tell people like that's not great, and it's like no, but it could be, and maybe there's something we need to add to it. Maybe we need to flip that idea on its head and think about it differently. So I love that. That's a really great one to have. And just maybe like also like to think about like, you know, you may be like this like creative problem solver who has, you know, full of ideas and able just to really add value into like ambiguous problems and things like that. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll go next. I think for
Yes.
me, it would always be, and that's how I usually introduce myself, is that I'm very solution oriented. When there are hundreds of problems, I tend to find solutions to them rather than just sitting and rolling on the problem and just crying all over it. For me, it would be being solution oriented in a very small amount of time and just getting the desired results, even though it takes a lot of work and a lot of pressure in that.
Yeah, that I would say that too, extremely helpful, because it's just something you guys like, a true thing I often hear from managers, myself being a manager and other ones, like people like it's great if you know how to identify a problem, but it's even greater if you can identify a problem and come with like maybe a few options. That makes people feel like, wow, they know this. They know what they're doing. I can really like trust them with more responsibilities and they're ready for the next level. So I think those are all just, thank you for everybody who participated. These are all wonderful strengths and just something that you'll continue to build upon, and make sure that you put them in your resume. And when you get chances to talk about them, you know, and build upon them or share your knowledge, make sure that those things come through. Awesome. So we will move forward. So this kind of leads us into the next best practice, reality check. There's truly a book. It's very famous. It's kind of a boring read. My friend got it for me. I was like, I don't know if I love this book, but it's famous and it's good at what it tells you. By Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And ultimately, just giving you guys a true like piece of reality. You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in what others have to say, basically, than in 2 years trying to make people like interested in you. So that kind of leads me to the next best practice: build genuine relationships. And I know this sounds very cliche, but here's like the truth. Meaningful connections matter. And it's super important to get to know the people around you. And the reason why I say that is because somebody told me this during a really great like mentorship meeting with another organization I'm involved in. But basically, so many people like spend their time at work looking up who's the CEO, who's that director on my team, who's this. But truly look around you. These people, you all will be the future of the industry. And there are some people who just will, their careers may like grow in a way that yours may not at that exact time. And they may be in a seat or a position to help you get to the next level, be considered for that next role. People move around, and it's just so important to know the people next to you, because you could end up working with them side by side. They may end up being your manager at some point. And just because you sat next to them, it just makes all the difference in the world if you really use that connection instead of keeping your head down and focusing on these people that you may not have as much access to. Focus on those people too. I would also say soft skills and interpersonal communication skills. Don't forget that those are leadership skills. People trust leaders who they can say hi to. Like, no one wants the devil wears Prada vibe. I'm running away from my bosses before we come. Everybody's like getting it together. That's not fun. Now there are people like that, not in the industry from that I'm in. We have another fellow that works at Condé, so I'm sure that's a different story situation. But you know, you want to be kind to people, and also don't burn bridges. Treat others with kindness and respect, even when it's hard. So I have a few things about this. I'm going to keep it really honest. You may burn some bridges. However, you don't have to burn them completely to the ground, you know? Leave some type of foundation standing where ultimately maybe you and that person didn't get along the best during these type of working circumstances or that situation. But like, you want your brand to ultimately shine through. Like, know that, like, you know, we had a really tough client, but Brittany was a good team player. She always delivered her projects on time. She was communicative. Like, you just want people to have enough, right? So when it comes to like a key decision, you're still not like out of the loop because you really burn that bridge to the ground. So, but truly, I say you'll burn bridges because somebody's not going to like something you do. You're going to have some tough moments and be in some tough spots. But if you do your best to treat others with kindness and respect, you can overcome those. Or you can have an advocate in the space that can help you overcome those because they know who you are and your brand and who you are speaks for itself. All right. The next one, just building upon that, identify mentors and sponsors. So I wanted to really get into this because this is something that I don't think I was told just explicitly when I was like entering into the workplace. We all know about a mentor. So, a mentor is someone, who basically may help you work through challenges, make a decision about conversations. There's some maybe shared experiences. You guys had a dedicated time building a relationship, and ultimately they can help you advance your career goals because you can just tap into somebody who may have a little bit more knowledge and more experience, or just a lived perspective, like outside of an area that you may possess as yourself during that time. And what I found too in mentorships, it's not one-sided. The best mentorships, they shouldn't be. You don't want somebody to like feel like they're only giving to you and pouring into you. There's been mentors where they know they can maybe ask me about like TikTok and other like maybe new like things on the rise, and I have an expertise here, and they're able to give me their expertise when it comes to like navigating a sticky situation where you're working for somebody that may be a little bit more difficult to like manage up to or just manage down to. You want to tap into them for things like that. And my people who have become like what I would consider a mentor, I may have worked for them at some point and we just maintained a really strong relationship. So they know who I am as a worker. They can speak to me and my strengths. Those are the type of people that you would tap into if you wanted to like later on go to like grad school and, continue education. Like for me in the fellowship, I had to tap into some of those people to write me letters of recommendation. So those kind of people, those are who I would consider a mentor. And again, it's not one-sided. Like one of my recommenders, she's texting me right now, asking me just how work's going. I know she has a son, so I'm checking on him, and it should be very natural, free flowing. You pretty much have a lot of access to them. But a sponsor, they're somebody who's able to talk about you to senior members of your work environment. So a mentor doesn't necessarily have to work with you, but a sponsor, should be like somebody who's at your company, who's in a position to really merchandise you. That's like a word that one of my friends used, but it's so true. That can merchandise you when it comes to like maybe a potential employer opportunity, like within the company, maybe level up, nominate you for projects, or nominate you for boards that you didn't even know were like coming up because you're just not in those type of rooms where they're having those conversations just yet at this time in your career. I would say they usually help you navigate your career advancement, strategize on some stretch assignments, give you some key introductions, and just help you make moves ultimately that will elevate your career. And yeah, like I said, I didn't know about the sponsor thing until I got like in there and I'm like, what is going on? But you'll figure it out. But I would say I would kind of look to at least have 1 to 2 people in the category at that time. Maybe you just have one sponsor at work, but that's more than enough. But it's just somebody who knows how great you are, because you're continuing again to kind of sell yourself and like let them know some cool assignments you've been working on, keep in touch. You have an expertise that they tap into you for. Like that's how you definitely get a sponsor. Any questions too before I keep going for anybody? I know I've said a lot so far.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you like talk about how can you like kind of ask someone to be a mentor?
Yeah, this is a very interesting conversation, I would say, Allison, and it's interesting. Basically people, they're not, a lot of times people don't, there's like this, like, I don't want to say taboo, but it's like kind of interesting to ask somebody, right? It's not really something that you actually really have to ask for per se. I think it's mentors become a mentor based on how, you know, you guys are able to just like have that relationship and serve one another through that time. So it's not always formal, but I would say there are programs where you can actually get a mentor. And this is something that like early on in your career, let me tell y'all, early on in your career, it's like freshman year of high school or college. You know, everybody's really nice to you when you're a freshman. And then you're a sophomore and everybody's like, oh, she's got it. You're a junior. They're like, they got it too. Senior year, like, oh, she's on to something different. So early on in your career, people really offer this up to you a lot. And what I would always do is say yes. There are usually internally some mentorship programs. If you get involved maybe in an organization at work, that's what happened to me too. Like, it's just more, do it based on your genuine interest and you'll start to identify them and they'll identify themselves for you. Like, it'll just be that person that they're easy to talk to. You've realized you can confide in. Maybe they're a little bit more seasoned than you, but there's somebody like, if you're having a hard time, you can tell them and they're gonna always kind of jump to like help you. They root for you. A mentor always roots for you. So if you ever have somebody who's like kind of iffy in one situation and they're not your mentor, they'll never be a sponsor. Like, let it be someone who's always, they hear you, they understand, and they always have this like want to help you. And you're going to want to help them too, because they've helped you so much. And just because that's going to be the relationship you all have. So I would say that's how you identify them. They kind of emerge themselves. And I don't even think my mentors know they like are my, I think they know, but I've never called them to their, like, you're my mentor. Like they're a friend that I would invite out for drinks, but also can have those real work related conversations with. I hope that was helpful. I know that was a little long-winded.
Yeah, it was.
Anybody? Okay, cool. Anybody else have anything before we keep going?
Yeah, I'm actually having a hard time distinguishing between a mentor and a sponsor. Like, in what are the key elements that differentiate between both of them? I think.
Yeah. I would say a mentor is someone, like, a mentor doesn't have to work with you. If you like kind of like think of it in like more physical attributes, they don't have to work with you. And they're usually somebody who you have a lot more access to. A sponsor is someone who should be at your job, but you may not have that much access to. A sponsor may be somebody, they're likely somebody it could take you up to 2 weeks to get a meeting with. Like, they're not as accessible. They're accessible, but they're like pretty senior, because, you know, they're a key decision maker at the company. And maybe you have to, like, they're usually somebody, it sounds so funny, like, but a mentor, you can just maybe speak to them directly. You can give them a call, you can shoot them a text. A sponsor is likely somebody you're going to have to go through their admin to get to them, or it's going to take you a few weeks because this person is pretty important key player. So I would think of them. And also, a mentor doesn't have to work with you, kind of like I mentioned. A sponsor is at your company, someone who is in high ranks that can speak to your work right now. A mentor is somebody, and also too, I think people get this confused. Mentors are usually, they don't have to be older than you. They can be just more seasoned in an area that you're interested in and somebody that you're like tapping into for like their skill set. For example, I am very, I would say, I thought of it like actually, this is a really good kind of college example, but I can relate it back to work too. So when I studied abroad in college, there were peers who were like, I was a junior, but they were sophomores, and they became almost a mentor to me during that time in my life when I needed to navigate international living, international education, and just understanding kind of like I would say some of the, you know, those unwritten rules. A mentor is the type of person that will tell you, do not order the ribeye when you guys go to lunch. You order, like, even if the rep tells you can have anything you want to stay like humble and make sure you fit in. Don't order the most expensive thing on the menu. That's some type of advice you would get for a mentor. Versus a sponsor, they're the type of person who is going to nominate you for that next big project. They usually kind of can assign things to you and put you in places and help you navigate like the inner workings of your workplace. Whereas a mentor, they can tell you all kinds of stuff and give you all types of advice. And it's a little bit more structured with a sponsor and very specific versus a mentor. Is that helpful to you?
Yes, understood.
Okay, cool. Because I'm like, it gets a little bit sticky, but then it's also like, they're different. They are different. Again, sending a text versus talking to your administrative assistant, that feels different when you're, doing it. Awesome.
Quick question.
Yeah.
How do you have any tips for working through like imposter syndrome or basically like owning your own awesome?
Yes. So I have a couple so I would say first and foremost, it's just important to know what you're good at. And I would say affirm yourself, if you're having a big meeting or you're working towards something, affirm that you know this, there's because the thing is there's always going to be another choice, right? But why you're the top choice, tell yourself I am this, I am that. Definitely continue to remind yourself and just take pride in who you are and what you know at this place in your life, and know that the truth is you don't know everything, but you are more than qualified for whatever it is that you want because of these skills that you already possess. And if you're not, you can do things, you can strategically work to, again, strengthen those muscles and be qualified in these places. It's one of those things where it's really difficult. Everybody has a different way that they kind of deal with it. I will say for me, I'm a little bit more spiritual. So I'm the type of person who's reading devotionals in the morning. And there's ones called Faith Over Fear. And just knowing that, there are people that, and I don't want to get too deep into it because I want to be very respectful of everybody's beliefs, but there are people, that I'll say in this case, the man upstairs has qualified for roles that weren't qualified. So just knowing there are people that you can read about in history, in life, in some cases in the Bible, for me with God had qualified to do these things even when they weren't. So just knowing, leaning for me on my faith. For some people, affirmations. For some people, just reading things to yourself every single morning and knowing you can, and also just staying sharp. The truth is, you've built that skill set, you've put that time in, and just owning that, and also make sure you have your friends, people who know what you're good at, so they can kind of gas you up sometimes. You have your friends that you guys do it for each other. Make sure if you need a playlist that day, some people, music really does it for them. I know music really gets me, and if I'm listening to the wrong music at work, you could be in fight mode, so that hype you up, get you jazzed, get you ready. Make sure there are things that work for you. For me too, on my hard days, I'll definitely maybe dress up a little bit better because I know that I have maybe a big presentation, but not only that, if all else fails with this hard day coming up, at least I look good. I could just tell myself that, and there's different things that we need to make us feel good about ourselves. But I think it starts with just taking care of yourself and knowing that I can do this. And again, I don't even have to be the best at it. I just need to have a core competency just to do it good enough to get through this hurdle. And then I'll continue to grow and move on. Because there will be things you'll be excellent at. There are things at work, I'm the mathematician on our team. I was never the mathematician on anybody's team, but I am on this team. And I'm always have been somebody who manages budgets. If y'all asked me what I wanted to do when I graduated from school, I would not say managing budgets, but I'm really good at it. I actually like it. And people know that's a huge strength of mine. So just own, what you can, take ownership in that, just build confidence in that. And wherever you don't have it, create goals to make yourself better at that. And I think that will help you. I think another thing somebody told me, and this is really important, everyone doesn't really have imposter syndrome, right? Some people do. And it does happen a lot of times for women, a lot more sometimes. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen for men, but that's what we've kind of seen just in research. Also, somebody said it best, an executive at my company. She was just given that everybody's thing they need to work on is an imposter syndrome, identify what it is that you need to work on, build that up, and then you'll feel that confidence and how you need to feel to get to that next place and next level. I hope that's helpful. I feel like that was long-winded too. Is that kind of helpful?
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, yeah, but ultimately you got it. Like, you can do this. We all can do this. Like, you can do this. People need you. And and I think, oh, that's the last thing. I will say this before I move on. I don't have too much more to go. But work is a mutually beneficial relationship. And I think that's something I keep in mind too. They need things from me and I need things from them. And ultimately, we do the best together. They need me to they need me at work right now to manage content campaigns and these client relationships. And I'm using them and the brands to help like build my career, my skill set, and elevate it to where ultimately the next opportunity may be for me. So always look at it like this. You're not just there for everybody's health. They need something from you and I need something from them. And keeping that at the top of your mind and knowing that you can always get better and grow in those ways will help you too. Like, cause just keep that confidence so you will never feel like an imposter. Like, I'm here for a reason. I deserve to be here. I have a seat at this table because I was qualified to have a seat at this table. So let me show them what I'm made of. Awesome. And then actually, this is very related to that. Self-advocacy matters. So yes, it's great to have a mentor. And it's great to have a sponsor, but you need to advocate for yourself too. I think a really great quote that I pulled is advocating for yourself is truly an essential part of your career trajectory. It's the difference between years upon years in the same role with salary compression or a clear path to the C-suite. So let people know, basically to that next point, let people know what you want. Your managers are not a mind reader and they can't you can't assume anybody knows what's going on with you. You have to really speak up for yourself. And doing that will truly decrease stress in all areas of your life. Because I always talk to my people, like my peers, my tribe, even my family, like, if you're complaining to me about the things happening to you at work, I also want to know, you can vent to me, we're friends, that's fine, but what are you going to do about it? And when you have a clear path forward, this person isn't treating me right. Okay, well, maybe they don't even realize it. So you can say, and this has happened to me, like somebody just, they were not talking in a way that I grew up learning how to talk to people. And I'm like, hey, when you speak to me, and I said I just kind of pulled her to the side. On the side, I'm like, I'm having difficulties kind of like managing this relationship and I really want it to work. When you speak to me, I don't feel like my voice is being heard and we're not really like finding that middle ground and agreeing in a way that's beneficial to the client. So, can we both like collaborate and make an effort to really hear each other out and work together in a way that's beneficial for this client and this relationship? And she was totally open, completely changed. That's it. But if I'm complaining to my friends about it, there's no way that I'm identifying the real issue and creating a next step for it where it matters the most at work. And then for the next one, it's, excuse me, I need to move this. Explore your passions and get a hobby. It sounds silly, but you are so much more than your job title, and your passions humanize you, and human connections are important. They're super important to relationship building. They keep you sharp, but also, what if you love golf? And guess what? What if your CEO loves golf? Guess what you have to talk about next time you meet the CEO? Maybe you like Broadway. Maybe you're like up to date on all some of the latest shows. You guys can talk about those things, and those things add value and just make you so much more than your title and the function that you're put there to do at that time, because titles will change, but you will always stay the same. You are a human, you're multifaceted, you're very important, and you have a lot of skills, to bring to this world and things to show the world that you're here for. And then, so like moving to the next one. Oops. Hold on. Sorry, all right. So stay ready so you don't have to get ready. This is actually like my last tip, and I know we're getting close on time, but things you should do: create a brag box. Keep a folder in your email where people said nice things about you. It's truly. And it's a folder kind of, well, it's more applicable to the place you are at the time, but keep a folder where people have praised you, your clients, your team members. That type of stuff is super helpful. Those receipts, when you ultimately want to ask for a promotion or for a raise, that people recognize the good work I'm doing. I'm adding value to this team. Keep your resume and your LinkedIn up to date. I would say update your resume quarterly. I got to a point where I updated it monthly just because I genuinely like working on it. I think it's really fun. And I worked on my families and do everybody's around me usually. So I just kind of always am thinking of ways to redesign it and all kinds of things. And just every few years, I like to do that. So take notes of your big and small wins, because you're going to have more small wins than big ones. But you need to know, like, during this time, maybe I got a no for that like promotion, but I also met my savings goal. I did this for the client. I did these things. Just keep those in mind, because they'll really help you as it pertains to like that next big thing. And do your homework. Stay informed on industry news and happenings. That person who can, and the meeting when they're like, what's happening in the industry? And you can say something, that person sounds smart. People love that person. People are interested, like, oh, wow, they really know what's happening. And then prepare, stay prepared. Prepping looks different in an office than on Zoom, but in an office, what I'm saying, for like, if you have a meeting with like 12 people, make sure that that room actually seats 12 people. Make sure the technology works. Make sure that, you know, like, if the technology is a little iffy, have somebody in the tech like department on standby. And then like on Zoom, make sure that you can definitely like hear the volume works. If you are maybe having a global meeting and it's helpful to have your captions on, do that. Just make sure you're always prepared for that thing. And even in interviewing, know about the role, know what it contributes to, know the team you're going to be helping out with. It's so, people love that. And it just makes you look so even more qualified than you guys already are for that next big thing. So these are just like the best practices, just kind of really all laid out for you. Because I just think they're just so important. So, and then I just really, my biggest advice for you is to like go for, sell, influence, win, and just have a great time doing it, because like that's what life is all about. And that imposter syndrome and anything you face, as you keep building it and getting more comfortable, the tensions of those discussions, the nervousness, it's all practice. It'll start to kind of like go away. You'll have some type of like, you know, high that you get when you get a little bit anxious or nervous, but it'll start to become more like just a habit versus like this like high stake performance that you do every so often. So that's everything I have for you guys. Any quick questions? I know we have like 1 minute before you guys start. Yeah.
I got a quick question. So first I wanted to say about imposter syndrome. I've heard that most people who have imposter syndrome are actually overqualified for the positions that they're applying for. So that's one thing. So I had a mentor in the past. I actually met him through like YouTube comments. I was learning about finance and things like that. And I found myself being not the best mentee. So I kind of struggled with fostering the relationship and keeping it going. So how do you have any tips for showing up as a mentee?
Yeah, I would say just like fostering relationships and keeping up with people. More for that, it's just help know things about people, you know, like there are things that you and someone else has in common. And so for me, like how I was talking about one of my mentors, I asked about her son. Some people are going to have children, and maybe you have a small cousin or a small member of your family, so you're passionate about children. Or know if people have dogs. Maybe you like a dog, and ask about the dog. Ask about any like things going on when they took a vacation. Have a follow-up about that. Those type of things help you develop those relationships and maintain them. Like you knew they like to travel. Hey, I remember you like to travel a lot. Been anywhere fun lately? Like those are the type of things that really help you, where you could just come and you're not necessarily asking for something, but you're allowing them to talk about yourself, like we kind of saw from the Dale Carnegie quote. But then you can kind of go in with whatever it is you need and tell them about some of the things going on with you too.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem, Jesse. Anybody else? And sorry, Maya, please cut me off, whatever, because I want to be very respectful of all you guys' time.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Kylie. I'm also from Chi-Town.
Love it.
I loved your presentation. I loved everything about it. But one of the questions that I have, because it seems like that things are kind of like, I don't want to say figured out, I don't want to speak for you, but it seems like you have a good, or you put towards a lot of effort between having a good balance between your work life, personal life, and then personal work life. You spoke on your spiritual life earlier. So I'm just wondering, what do you do to stay consistent with yourself, stay in tune with the job that you have but also yourself. And then, yeah, just something like that in practicing balancing, because balance is not persistent, it's ongoing. So I'm just wondering.
Yeah, for sure. I would say look at all of your circumstances and be open like to change. It is something that will continue to evolve as you do. So I'll tell you this, when I first got into the industry, something that was really important to me, and it still is exercising. So at that time when I was an associate and I worked longer hours, I would go first thing in the morning. So it was out of my hands, but then I would make sure that I was able to do my work, take whatever breaks that I needed throughout the day. Because you actually, weirdly enough, to sound silly, but like in office, you kind of take a lot of breaks. You know, you go get some coffee, you go talk to your friend around the corner, you do some things. And then after work, I was able to either like make time to be with my friends and hang out. But I knew for me on Mondays that that was a day that I would dedicate to like working late if necessary, which often cases it was. But as it got later towards the week, I would allow myself like that time to like let the team know if I had plans. So in that terms, like kind of like think about the things that matter to you the most and carve out space in however your job like works at that time to do it. So currently, I would say I like wake up and dedicate time to my devotionals. But then for things like this, even my team, they were really excited that I was doing this today. So I was like, hey team, I'm talking to these awesome like young people about like selling, winning, and influencing. And I got that hour and then I'll tap back in. Do my work. And then afterwards, like now during the pandemic, I like to work out like right after work or sometimes in the middle of the day. So I do that. And then I kind of go on with all the other plans I have. So it's really just looking at like where the needs are and like identifying what matters to you the most and creating space for that and just being open and honest up front. Like, this makes me a well-balanced person. This is how I need to approach work. Can we, align to this being what my schedule looks like, and just kind of having those conversations. And people are more receptive than you think, especially because it shows you're dedicated. It shows, hey, I want to be fully present. I even had to move a meeting because this meeting today, and I don't say it in that way, but I wanted to be present. I wanted to hear every single thing that's happening at this meeting because I'm genuinely interested. So I'm like, hey, given that I'll have to like leave early to go to this meeting, can we move this one a little bit later to the afternoon since you asked for it to be shift, so I can make sure I hear every single thing that needs to be said? It's all about how you shape it up. But if you shape things up nicely and package them in a way that, again, it's kind of a sell, right? You're influencing them and you win in the way because that's something you ultimately like. It matters to you and it's important to you, but they know that it makes you dedicated, show up in the way that they like for you to show up, and everybody kind of wins in that way. So it's more transparency and identifying what's the most important to you. But you can't have something important every night, right? Like, got a baseball game tonight, I got this tonight, I got this tonight. Like, I would say like if you have one day during the weekday and then you want to like, have a pretty nice Friday, like not work late, that's usually feasible, I think.
For sure. Thank you for that, Brittany. Guys, we're kind of pressed for time. So I would love it, Brittany, if you can share your information in the chat. And
Absolutely.
You guys should absolutely connect with Brittany, continue to use her in your network and as a resource as you continue on. Brittany is, amazing as a fellow and has so many tips and tricks. If you even get a chance to find her social media, you'll absolutely see that influencing is something that she takes seriously and does well. So thank you again, Brittany, for joining us.
Thank you.
That was really amazing. Again, I'll be sharing her presentation with you guys in our follow-up email. So don't worry if you missed any slides. We're going to just jump into our executive salon, which is so great because Brittany was speaking of mentors, and one of my mentors will be joining us here today. We have Ericka Riggs from Omnicom Specialty Marketing Group to talk to you a little bit about DE&I, as she's the Chief Diversity Officer, and a little bit about what Omnicom looks like. Ericka, I see you, I'm going to spotlight you. And just so you guys have some backstory, Ericka was previously director of the foundation at the Ad Club. So this time last year, she was on these calls with all of the interns. Take it away.
Yes, I'm so excited. Brittany, amazing job. Maya, I don't see Aisha in my purview here, but I have a special a very special place in my heart for the Ad Club and all that they do for people along their journey, their career journey. The fact that you guys are here means that you are engaged in your career journey, which is the first start of anything successful, is to be engaged. I have brought along a friend with me. She's my colleague, and she has become my work mentor. And I'm going to introduce her in a little bit. But and you know what? And I don't see her either, but I'm sure it's because I'm looking at a lot of faces. There you go. That's Kirya Francis. So what, and this really works well given the topic that you all were discussing today, because being a mentor never stops and being a mentee never stops. And I'm going to kind of set some context up to the conversation that both she and Kirya and I are going to have. So can I share my screen? Am I able to share my screen? I am. So let me optimize the video clip and share the sound. Oh, what? No, I'm not doing that. Okay, can you see this?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. So as I said, I'm Ericka Riggs. I'm the Chief DE&I Officer, and we're going to talk about those letters: diversity, equity, and inclusion of the Omnicom Specialty Marketing Group. And I'm joined with Kirya Francis, who's the Chief Diversity Officer of the collective at Omnicom. And she will talk a little bit about where she's from and really kind of what you're doing, but what we really are warriors. And what does that mean? Let's get into it. So as we all know, much has changed because of the pandemic and because of George Floyd. And this word racial justice, which probably wasn't a part of your lexicon a year ago, while it was mine and has always been, it is what I am in search of most of my life. And it's in what I'm fighting for others every day, is how we've all come to know who we are in these days and times. And what does that really mean? What does that look like? Does that really have anything to do with you? Are you an advocate? Are you an activist? Or are you an ally? So my job and Kirya's job is for us to make sure that we are creating equitable and safe, equitable and successful opportunities within the company for everyone. And I've got a little video that I want to share. Let's go here first so we can set this up. I'm sorry, I want to make this big.
In the wake of George Floyd's death after being suffocated by Minneapolis police, and
I'm gonna make this big, so how do I do that? Let's see, let's make this, I don't want airplay.
Global protests against racism, inequality, and police brutality, brands and companies have been weighing in different ways. Instead of
I think if you pick the title of the video, it'll take you straight to YouTube, and that way you could make it full screen. I don't know.
Okay, because it's saying my internet's unstable. Okay, let's go here.
Responses. One of the first brands to speak out was Nike, which posted a
Let's start over. Let's do this here.
In the wake of George Floyd's death after being suffocated by Minneapolis police and the global protests against racism, inequality, and police brutality, brands and companies have been weighing in a variety of different ways. I'm Jeff Beer, and instead of Fast Company's usual brand hit and miss this week, we're going to be taking a look at some of these responses. One of the first brands to speak out was Nike, which posted a short video that flipped the script on its headline. This work is consistent with Nike's past efforts.
We can't see the video.
Oh, really?
You have to share your YouTube screen.
Okay, so you know what? It's not going to allow me to do that because I tried to do that. Let's see. Okay, let's, you know what? Let's just dig into this. I'm gonna unshare here. I don't know why that's happening. Yeah, you're right. So let me stop sharing. And then let me make this full. One thing about this new world that we find ourselves in, this is a great example of why you have to be ready to pivot at any time, because technology in a virtual world will often let you down. It's let me down twice today. I had a wonderful presentation and a wonderful layout, and we had a glitch and it's gone. So while Brittany was speaking and giving you all such wonderful information, I was redoing it all over again. What happens when things don't go as planned? That's probably one of the first lessons that I had no intention of talking about today, that I'd like to leave you all with, that you're going to have to learn how to be resilient under fire. You're going to have to learn how to stay cool under fire. And at the end of the day, we're all just on a floating rock. It's really all not that serious. That's how you have to think about it, or else you will flip out. So I do want to go back though and share the presentation because it helps me. I just want to play the video. It helps me to kind of show you all some lexicons that I believe are important. And Kirya, I'd like to have you weigh in on some of these.
Sure.
Yeah, because this is what we're really tasked to do. As diversity, equity, and inclusion people, we are asked to go into companies and create more, racial justice, if you will, in some cases. We're also asked to make sure that the business of D&I is centered within the business. And what does that mean? For me, at Omnicom Specialty Marketing Group, it means I'm looking at the diversity suppliers and vendors that we work with. I'm looking at the community, meaning people like the Ad Club of New York. I'm looking at making sure that I align my company with organizations who also are in alignment with making sure that diversity is top of mind. Inclusion is most definitely something that they work towards, and equity is something that we all are making sure that we understand even more. So with that, I'm going to go here because this is something that I always feel people really get wrong. And that is, what's the difference? Nope, shut up. What's the difference between equity versus equality? This is a conversation, right? And it tells us that equity involves trying to understand and give people what they need to enjoy full, healthy lives. And equality, in contrast, aims to ensure that everyone gets the same things in order to enjoy that full and healthy life. And like equity, equality aims to promote fairness and justice, but it can only work if everyone starts from the same place and needs the same things. When you hear that, Kirya, how does that make you think? How do you think about this? And how does it play into how you approach work each and every day? Because I think this is where the biggest challenges.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we started talking about equity more and more in the past couple of years, because I think people always use equity and equalities as synonymous words, meaning that you can use them interchangeably. But to what Ericka talked about in the definition, it's about meeting you where you are. I know you were going to play a video, and you can see that there's a small picture in there. There's one on the internet that everybody uses where you see 3 kids trying to look at a baseball game, and one person has 3 boxes and one person has 2 boxes, one person has no boxes based on their height, in order for them to be able to see, meaning equity. But I liken, sometimes it's a little bit hard to grasp. I use the term that if your boss or your supervisor, your lead, were to give 3 of the interns passes or ways to get to work, and they said, I'm going to give you all 3 of you a gallon of gas. If one of you takes the bus and the other one takes uses a bike, the only person who's going to be useful in that situation is the person who has a car. And so that's what we have to do. We have to constantly look at where our agencies are and service them in a way and help them be able to help their employees get to a better place. So I think a lot of people think of equity as in financial, but it's also about investment in what agencies put into you and what you put into the agency, and having that mutual beneficial relationship.
And you know what, Kirya, my big question is probably the question that some of you all have. Why? Why is that important? Mm-hmm. How has the movement of the last 2 years really exposed why this equity and equality and inclusion and diversity, why these things? I see Kenny Thacker. Kenny. He's my partner in all of this. He's a partner. He's one of the warriors that I look forward to, and he's also a mentor. But what is the why? And I think that drives, I will answer my why. I'm giving you the why as something for you all to think about as we continue in this conversation, because I feel like it's, for me, why is this important? It's important to me. It's very personal. I'm an African-American woman, and I live within two of most of, you would probably say, marginalized communities. Those marginalized communities have barriers to access historically. They have had barriers to the finish line historically. And what we're seeing now is a new opening, or an awakening, if you will, of people recognizing that to exclude my voice, to exclude the things and my gifts, to yuck my yum, which a wonderful person says, is to preclude innovation within a company, is to not be as relevant in the culture because I understand the culture more so than others at times. So when you do that, you're really losing your competitive advantage. So from a businesses now recognize that to hear Abigail's voice, or to understand Aisha's strategy, or to expand a marketplace, you have to understand all voices, because they can all contribute to making a product or a service or a business more marketable. And at the end of the day, that's what businesses are for. Yes, we want our people to be comfortable and safe, but none of that can happen, right? None of that can happen if we don't have the business, if we're not making the money. What's your why?
You know, I kind of went out, so I didn't hear the beginning of what you're saying. So apologies if I'm repeating anything that you stated. But one of I think the biggest things that happened, it was in the process. We were in the process of having an awakening before George Floyd's murder. It wasn't as prevalent as it ended up being after May 25th. But what was interesting before that was that businesses were losing out on money. And they were seeing that the places where they could grow their customer base, to your point, Ericka, was in communities that were not part of the non-Hispanic white community. So how do you engage with those? Well, initially, when Ericka and I, they didn't really care about our opinions. You just basically modified your life around what was offered out there, from pantyhose to Band-Aids to anything that you could think of. You just modified it in your own personal way that you could. I think what has happened is they realize that they can act.
Uh-oh. Did she freeze? Anybody else frozen?
Yeah, she's frozen.
Am I back?
Okay. You're back.
Okay. So I don't know where I left off, but basically it's important for our clients to be able to have people at the agencies that represent those communities. So what Ericka was talking about is so true, that it's easy. You can't Google someone else's community in the ways that they did before. People just kind of dialed it in. And now they're realizing that when they're creating these advertisements, it has to resonate and be authentic to the people that are watching it. So I have to say that you are in a power position. While Ericka's working our presentation, I was literally working on how we're going to be looking at our diversity numbers. And it's pretty, it's not pretty. Let me just put it that way. And what it is that people hire people who they're comfortable with. You're working with people for 40 hours a week. And so you're like, oh, you went to the same school? Check. Oh, you know what it is to be off on Juneteenth? Oh, check. People hire people who look like them. And so at this point, and not a reflection on Omnicom, but advertising as a whole is 85% non-Hispanic white. And that is, I think it's great because the white community brings something to the table as well. Diversity is not about excluding them. The challenge is that the country is 40% diverse. So there's only 15% of the people walking around these agencies that are speaking for 40% of the country. And they're realizing they need to diversify our agencies in order to be more reflective of that. So you are in a power position. I heard the conversation about imposter syndrome earlier. You can just go on ahead and throw that in the trash. They need you more than you need them. And of course, you know, it is a mutually beneficial relationship, as Brittany had mentioned earlier. And just make sure that you're happy about where you're going and what position you're being offered. Money may not always be what you expect it to be. Don't expect to start off at 6 figures, but it's important to know that you are a value add to our agencies, and don't go in with imposter syndrome at all.
Yeah, you know what? I love what you just said. You said a couple of things. One, we talk about, you know, a lot of people are like, what are you all doing? Why is the D&I person important? And I often say, well, you wouldn't have a business if you didn't have HR. HR is intentional about making sure that the people have their benefits. That's one of the competitive advantages of working at a company, is when you look at companies, you decide, do I want to work at a place that doesn't recognize that hybrid working, meaning allowing us to work part-time from home and the other part, you know, the work, that flexibility right now, that's a competitive advantage. So as we come out of the pandemic, we're seeing a lot of people who are rushing to go back to business as usual. And what we recognize is you cannot do that if you want to continue to have a competitive advantage. So we look at tech companies, and a lot of the tech companies definitely have more flexibility just by virtue of their technology and how used to operating within those systems they are. But they also have an issue and a problem in the tech environment because of the lack of community that's built. So there's something to be said for a hybrid model. And so what do we do? As a D&I person, what does it mean to then help the CEO and the leaders understand what the people need? So a lot of the tools that we use, and I'm going to get into the skills that we use and how we became who we are, because these positions are fairly new. Although D&I is not new, the positions are new. And the positions are necessary because for so long, there was no intention. And what was left up to was good intentions, right? Good intentions didn't move the ball down the field. It didn't allow people to, back to what Kirya said, you had people who, because of the cadence of this business, those of you all who are in agencies right now, it's quick, it's fast. You've got to be able to pivot, and you're multitasking, and you're working for your clients who are doing so much. I'm going to stop sharing, so I want to see everybody. Where'd the little stop sharing thing go? I saw it.
Should be at the bottom, I think.
It's at the bottom now? Nope, it's at the top.
Or it might be at the top.
Yeah, it's playing Duck Duck Goose with me. Hold on. Let's move this over here. There we go. Move this here so I can see. I'm just going to go off script here. But I do need to know what our time is like because we're at 1:12. Are we up to 1:30? Is that what time we are coming to a head, Maya?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So in this case, George Floyd happens. I'm at the Ad Club. The Ad Club has really done an amazing job of making sure that the talent pipeline is well informed, is educated, has access, is nurtured through the fellowship, through the internship program, through the professional development that it offers to its members. It's on point with that, right? Well, all of that was happening and everyone was talking about how we needed to increase diversity, and we're going to get into what diversity means. But really, it's representation. You need to increase the representation of the communities who are really creating culture and who understand culture. And one of those particular communities are the African American community that in advertising continuously is at a 2% rate. Well, that's just ridiculous. That is supposing that they don't understand how to communicate and how to create, because that's what you're doing in this in this industry is you're communicating, influencing, and creating ways to influence people to buy. As just boil it all the way down to that. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, that's correct. I mean, we have to, we do things, and you guys know this, about call to action. The whole idea of everything that we're doing is to get people to act, either buy a service, buy a product, or act in a way that would give us more information about their activities or purchasing activities.
Right. So we are now trying to go in and we're measuring. We want to first find out, does the workforce feel like they belong? Because we know that belonging is important. And why is that important? Because if you don't feel like you don't belong, you're going to leave. And it's very expensive for a company. They put a majority of their budget goes against attracting talent, hiring and onboarding talent. Then you're investing in that talent. So when someone leaves, you are then basically left with a deficit. And now you have to go through the process all over again. So it's best to keep the people that you have hired and value them. So we want to make sure one of the tools in our arsenal is to understand how to create surveys, how to understand the data that comes back from the surveys, take that data, take that understanding, and put it into actionable steps. And then, unfortunately, we have to influence the leadership, because leaders are often looking at numbers. Numbers drive them. So in order to do this position, I feel like one of the biggest skill sets that you will need is the ability to communicate, because you need to influence. You're using your numbers now, you're using surveys and data, but you really also need to know how to communicate, not only to the leaders, but you also need to communicate with the people who are actually feeling the way that they feel. And then what happens once you find out and get a better benchmark of how people are feeling in the company? Then you start to put together what we call best practices. And Kirya, I want you to talk about one of the wonderful best practices that you use with Adobe.
Oh, yes. So we did a...
Uh-oh, you froze up.
With 11 of our agencies to figure out better ways to, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. We did a event where we had 11 of our agencies come up with different ways.
No, I can't hear you. All right, let's keep it moving. When she comes back, we'll pull back in, but you got it? You there?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and turn my video off because I think that that's causing some of the problems. But we did a Adobe Creative Jam where we had 11 of our agencies come up with different ways to create belonging, just as Eric had mentioned. But I think one of the things that I want to make sure I get in, because I know we're going to be short on time, for you and where you are in your space. When it comes to working in your agencies or looking for jobs within your agencies, I think it's mission critical to know that you are a representative of your community. And it doesn't matter what part of the community you are sitting in, whether it is your race, your ethnicity, your religion, your region, your gender identity, your sexual orientation, whatever it is so important for you to speak up. And if you see something, say something. I don't want to sound like we're at the airport, but if you see something, make sure that you represent your agencies well. And as Ericka had mentioned, we were trying to figure out different ways that people's voices could be heard, because it shouldn't always go through one person like myself and Ericka. You should be able to have an avenue to leadership to speak your truths. But just know that when you do get in front of certain people in leadership, and I'm going to kind of draw on what Brittany was saying earlier, be prepared, be precise, and also have a solution. People in our roles, we're constantly being bombarded with problems, and boy, is it so welcoming to have someone who comes with a problem and a solution. So just wanted to put that in there, Ericka.
I love that. I think, that's the way we want to think about things. As a matter of fact, the whole way of thinking these days in companies is, and you should start thinking about this now. You don't have a job. Start looking at this as a career. And so when you look at it as a career, you start to be able to see yourself remembering where you want to end up, but you can also know that now you need to, the same way if you were an entrepreneur, you need to create a board of people who are your advisors. You need your mentors, you need all of these things. And you also want to make sure that you make it known by your work how committed you are. You don't always need to wave your flag and use your voice. As a matter of fact, the economy of voice is an important concept. It means say fewer words, but more impact. And that's what companies are now looking for. They're looking for people who have more of a sense of an entrepreneurial sense, because they want you to think out the box and help provide solutions to problems. Not just bring problems to the forefront. That again is why diversity is so important, because not one person, I don't have all the solutions, neither do you, and neither do my colleagues, but together we definitely workshop and bring together solutions to a lot of the problems that help our clients, because at the end of the day, that's exactly what I'm being paid to do, okay? In the diversity space, you also want to think about it, and I think we just mentioned it. So not only are we providing strategy, but we're also creating programs. And what does creating programs mean? So again, we find out that the women who are 3 to 5 years in haven't been promoted. So we start to see that there is a trend where mid-level women aren't being promoted to the next level. So we need to then decide what type of programs. Kenny Thacker is amazing because of the programs he's been able to create to help move the pipeline efficiently. Kirya and I are on the inside, and we are like, okay, bring us the pipeline, bring us the talent that you're developing, and then let's put them into the places and spaces they need to be. At the same time,
I was going to say, can I just add on to what you were saying about time frame? I know I worked at GSD&M for about 20 years, and it's one of the 13 agencies that I oversee for diversity inclusion in my area. And one of the things that comes up all the time when people start a job is, how long does it take for me to be promoted? Or how long do I need to be in this job before I move on to my next job? And I just want you to know that hearing it on the other side, because you're on one side at this point, that it comes across that you don't want to put in your time. Whereas I believe what you're really saying is you just want to have an understanding of how long you can be in this position before you can ask for a promotion or a raise. And so just like Eric had mentioned, we're looking at career pathing and career advancement. And so instead of saying I, just say, how long does a person, does an assistant, I don't know, thinking of it, media planner or assistant account manager, stay in this role before they move on to account supervisor, and what attributes or things do I need to complete in order to make it to the next level? When you say on average, because they don't know. They don't know if there's going to be a new client. They don't know if someone's going to leave their job. They don't know. There's a lot of things that people don't know, and they're afraid to tell you 2 years. And 2 years, you pop in their office and they're like, 2 years is up. I deserve my promotion. So just say, what are some things that I need to do in order to move up to the next level? And then you make time. If they're not providing you one-on-ones, you make time with them to do that.
That's right. And that's why your mentor and your sponsors are so important, because trust me, no matter where you are, be the best in that space. You might not be happy. Things might not be what they need to be for you, but truly someone, if you're doing a great job, has recognized who you are. And with the onslaught of, or the ability to be able to use the internet to promote yourself, right? And I don't mean that in a self-serving or an artificial way, but I mean, if you've got great work that you're doing, if you're putting time in and you're creating the story and the narrative for yourself, people are watching that. People are able to see that, and you will be able to move. And what I want to see is everybody have the opportunity to move. So while you're working on moving, I'm working on moving things out of the way, unjust and inequitable systems out of the way, so that everybody has an opportunity to be at the table and every voice is heard. And I don't want to talk your head off, because I can do that. But I feel like what you all are really trying to get at this moment in time is an understanding of the inside of the industry and how you fit in it. And I just want to leave you with this. Diversity is not just my job. And Kirya, you said it. If you see something, say something. There's a way to be an ally. There's a way to speak up for yourself, which helps others as well. And if you find yourself in a company that you absolutely see injustice being done upon other people, or even yourself, don't be afraid to speak up. And there's a way to do that. There are many opportunities now that can help you say what you need to say and build on, and then move to the next rung on your ladder. You don't have to stay and get mistreated, but you also don't quickly assume that everyone has ill will towards you as well. And that's where the tricky part happens, because I can't ever guarantee that you're going to have a perfect 100% easy peasy opportunity out here. And it's because people are hustling hard and they're hustling fast. So what does that mean? Does that seem optimistic? I want to leave on an optimistic note. It means that you need to find who you are, find your passion, also make that passion parallel to your purpose, make your purpose purposeful to others who hire you, because you have a contract. You signed a contract with people that you were going to come and work. So do that. Be brilliant. Bring your voice. Continue to work on finding what that voice seems like, looks like, feels like. And I'll be honest with you, I don't care how old or mature you get into any of these positions, I'm not sure that you ever get 100% so confident. As a matter of fact, I would think that if you do get too confident with knowing everything, then it's time for you to move on and make room for other people and go to your next frontier. Because I would like to believe that everyone should have a learning experience for the rest of their lives. That on that note, I'm finished, but I'd love to hear, Kirya, your closing remarks. Mm-hmm.
Sure. I'm so sad that you can't see me, because I believe that you have to see people in order to see people. So hopefully my voice will come across with my thoughts. And one of the things that I want people to realize is that most of the changes that happen at the grassroots. You saw 600 and Rising happen last year, and anything that has happened in any of our agencies have happened because a person spoke up. And that's a attribute, characteristic of a leader. And just by you being in this program, I know that you are already in those positions. That's something you're thinking about. But remember that, for example, employee resource groups, if you get to an agency and you look around and there's not an employee resource group that supports your community, you start that. It's called an employee resource group because the employees are the ones that start it. A lot of people think agencies are responsible for starting it. The other thing is,
did we lose you, Kirya? Oh no.
Team, can you hear me? And about
you said the other thing. The other thing is, that's where we heard.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So the other thing is to maintain the relationships you're building here with Ad Club, because in about 10 or 15 years, all of these people will be in power positions. And Ericka can tell you, there's a lot of remember wins with people that I know that if I threw out some names, you'd be like, wow, yeah. Well, I remember when we were just like you guys. So I know that you're going to be the next generation. And these are the people, you think it's us, and we can help you, but it's really going to be the other people that you see on this call who will be the most valuable assets to your career. And that's it. I can't wait to, I'm looking at some names. I can't wait to see what you guys accomplish.
Well, I'm very excited because we have 3 interns with the OSMG, and yesterday they were given an assignment to really, I've been working there and looking at what we need to do with our social media and how we communicate to internally. And within, I don't know, a day, they presented to me this morning some fantastic work. So I'm excited. This is what really makes me excited, working with the people and working and helping others. I'm at that point in my life where this is my why. So thank you all for showing up for yourselves and showing up for others. Maya?
I'm here. Thank you so much, Ericka and Kirya, for joining us from OSMG and talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, what it means, how to sort of exemplify it in your everyday lifestyle and everyday living, and how it drives everything that we do. I'll share Ericka's email if she's okay with that, and also connect with Ericka on LinkedIn for as a resource and to continue on with your networking. Again, thank you so much, Ericka. You know, you're a gem to me. The club loves you, and we're so happy that both of you were able to join us. It's 1:31 right now, so we won't keep you any longer. We'll send you the recording and today's presentations via email, and I'll see you all next week.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Kenny.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll share my presentation with you, Maya.
Okay.
So you can share it out, because I'd love for them to look at those videos.
Awesome. Sounds good.